Good evening, everybody. Dr. Justin here with Expressing Life Chiropractic, and I'm excited to go down this journey with y'all tonight. I may have done this wrong, so we're going to see if this is going to work for us, as I cannot seem to find. There we go. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. I know that there's a couple others that are trying to get on here. And so in the meantime, I'm going to share this video a couple places. And hopefully this will be rocking and rolling. So again, my name is Dr. Justin Turner. I am a pediatric prenatal and family wellness chiropractor. I own and am the chiropractor here at Expressing Life Chiropractic in McKinney, and servicing McKinney and Frisco, Allen, and the surrounding areas. I take a whole body approach. And so with that, sorry, I wanted to make sure everything that you guys can see everything on your end, as that's important to me. But I take a whole body, whole family, whole life approach. And because of that, we see a lot of kids, we see a lot of families in our office. You can see that the picture with my son, he was much younger. That was about 4 years ago. But I love that picture of him. And he has had some major transition since I have gone down this pathway of helping kiddos and caring for kids here in the office. We work a lot with kids that struggle, that are on the spectrum, but we also have kids that are quote unquote healthy. And we're going to talk about what sets healthy kids apart, or are there really any healthy kids? And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send us a message here in the link on the live. We'll be more than happy to get to those. And again, really the big picture is raising our kiddos healthy in 2018. And so this slide here says, I have no idea what's going to happen, and I love it. As parents, a lot of times we kind of go down that road, right? We go down the road of maybe not knowing exactly what's going on. And because of that, we try to do the best that we possibly can. Well, I just want you to sit back. I want you to enjoy tonight. The first thing is, why are kids so sick? If you remember growing up, I don't think we were nearly as sick as our kids are today. I don't think that we missed nearly as many days from school from illnesses and that kind of stuff. The other thing that we're going to talk about is what it means to be healthy, how true health is achieved, and also the top 5 conditions or concerns I see in my office and what you can do about it, more importantly, because that's what it's about. So what is health? Big question, right? Is it not being sick? Does it just mean feeling good? Does it mean no medications, no symptoms? Those are all good questions, right? And I don't know that there is truly a definition of what health is. The definition that I love is a nervous system free of interference. To me, that is what health truly is. And if that doesn't make sense to you right now, it will as we go through this presentation. And that's really the key there. So again, as we go through this, we're going to talk about all the different definitions and all of those things. So we're going to start tonight off with an awareness test. Don't worry, there's not a pass or fail grade, right? We're not going to stress you out tonight. Some of you may have seen this already. Some of you may have not. I love it, and so I use it in a lot of my live talks and also in a lot of my webinars. So stay tuned and watch this video here. It's pretty interesting.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
So count how many passes the team in white is making. And let's see if you get it right. So now, was that kind of hard to stay on top of it, to watch, to figure out? Because there's a lot going on, right? There's white, there's a team in white throwing the ball, there's a team in black throwing the ball. They all kind of go, they run around, they're moving like crazy. And that's exactly what goes on, right? So many times we don't really look at, or we may miss things because there's so much extra stuff going around that we don't really see what's truly going around us. So keep watching here. And let us know. Post in the comments here and see how many passes the white team got. See if you get it right.
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
So don't lie, but tell us if you didn't see the moonwalking bear come through there. I didn't the first time that I ever watched this video. But you can see him right there. I had no idea. So it's pretty easy to miss something you're not looking for, right? We really looked at the fact of having you count the amount of passes by the white team. But because of that, you ended up missing more than likely. I know I missed it because we weren't concentrating on it. And so, like I said, it's easy to miss something that we're not looking for. And so that's really what brings us into tonight. Are our kids healthy in America? And I have to say that really they're not. And so we're going to talk about that. Now, this stat, and I even looked it up as late as today. I know that there's been new stats in and out, and it's really all over the place as far as what the number is. They say it's 1 in 37 in boys, but overall 1 in 50 kids. And again, it depends on who you talk to, right? CDC, they don't really want you to think that it's as bad as it is, but a good number, 1 in 50 kids. 1 in 2, they figure by 2025. That's right around the corner, guys. We're coming up on the end of 2018. That's about 7 years left. 1 in 2 kids. It's not okay. In my book, it's not okay to have that many kids with autism. Asthma is another one. 1 in 10 kids. Okay? There's over $3,300 per person in care for their kids. And that's if, excuse me. ADHD, 1 in 9 kids, another one that we see here. Most common drug prescribed is the same classification as cocaine. Again, that's not okay. And those are things that are being missed because we're not looking at the real cause. Mental illness, 1 in 5 kids. What do? Throw them on more prescriptions, cause even more issues. So we have 2 rules. We don't call others names, and we don't do drugs. Those are really the biggest 2 things that we don't do here in this office. We don't label kids, right? Not only do we not diagnose them, but more importantly, we don't label them. We don't say that they're autistic or, that they're sensory. That's just something that they have and that they're dealing with, right? But that's not who they are, and that's very important for these kiddos. So what's being done? The number 3 leading cause of death in America is that bottom number there, 106,000 non-error negative side effects of drugs. There's 12,000 unnecessary surgeries, 7,000 medication errors in hospitals, 20,000 other errors in hospitals, 80,000 infections in hospitals. So is that really the go-to place that you want to go to? For me, it's not. But that's because I was not always educated, right? And that's why we're doing this tonight, so that you understand that you have other options out there. We're going to blow this up a little bit. And you can see total number of prescriptions or refills dispensed. I understand this was 9 years ago, but they love to take their time on getting out new information. Blue for boys, red for girls. I'll leave this up for a bit so you can look at it. But asthma medications, right? We talked about that. We talked about the cost of that. There's over 45 million asthma medications giving in the year of 2009. And these are to teenagers. These are to kids, right? 0 to 9 were 28 million, and 10 to 19 were 17 million. Then we have ADHD medications, over 24 million prescriptions or medications in 2009. My guess is it's way up from that. And we see 0 to 9-year-olds at 7, and we see 10 to 19 at 17. And you can really go on through here. We've got antidepressants for kids, 0 to 9, over 1 million prescriptions, and 10 to 19, over 8 million. To me, it's just mind-boggling. The other thing here in the bottom corner here, you can see sleep aids. This is crazy to me because as a kid growing up and being extremely active, I came home and I would crash at night. And now we see kids coming into the office all the time, or hearing parents complain that their kids just can't get to sleep. They can't go to sleep. Now, part of that is because of all the technology, right? We didn't have that as kids growing up. We weren't stuck to the computer, to the tablet, to the iPad, to the iPhone right before we went into bed. Our bodies, our brains were able to shut down way before that. But we see 14,000 back in 2009 sleep aids were prescribed 0 to 9, and over 293,000 from 10 to 19-year-olds. To me, it's crazy. I can't even wrap my mind around it. So what are we missing? Back to that moonwalking bear, right? Could there really be one thing behind all of this that no one really has checked for? It's a great question, and I can tell you the answer is yes. And we're going to dive into that because it's super, super important. So up here, as you can see on the screen, on the slide, we've listed all of the systems that the body has. We've got skeletal, muscular, cardiovascular. We got our digestive system, endocrine system, our respiratory system, immune system, right? Keeping us healthy. If our immune system is shot or it's not functioning right, then we're going to get sick all the time. We're not going to get over that illness the way we should. Lymphatic system, urinary system, reproductive system, and our integumentary system. What are those all controlled by? Well, it's also on them. And really, it's what we call the master system, right? And so the master system, aka the nervous system, is what controls all of these other systems. And so in the beginning, there was 2 cells united that then divided over 1 billion times. To me, it's incredible. Within the first 2.5 weeks after conception, guess what? The brain and the spinal cord, aka the nervous system, aka the master system, was developed or is developed, right? And so we see right here, the nervous system controls all other systems. It's the master computer, the master system that runs all other programs. So from the brain and spinal cord at 2.5 weeks, right? We then have at 11 weeks, everything else is ready to go. All the other systems are up and running. So we'll talk about computers for a second. I have a computer that's down, it's working halfway, it's got all kinds of interference. It's just not functioning right? And we see bodies, our kiddos that come in, our families that come in and see us, their bodies are not functioning. They're not able to heal. Well, from the brain and spinal cord, at that point, it begins to control all these other systems as the baby begins to develop. Now, that process is perfect. And on Tuesday, I talked a little bit about the pregnancy world. But that process is perfect. But the key point is that there can't be any interference. And so that's usually what we end up seeing. Interference due to stresses in the nervous system will cause it not to function, not to run properly. So we have physical stresses, we have chemical stresses, and we have emotional stresses. And those are all important things for us to understand how your nervous system is functioning. So the innate intelligence, what governs, what drives, what controls the body, is always working. And this is pretty incredible to me, if you think about it. And that's why it's important to know whether your child is generating a healthy new body or an unhealthy new body, because we're always generating a healthy, or we're always generating a body. And so every 90 to 120 days, your body's going to produce new red blood cells. And that's at trillions every 90 to 120 days. Not very much time. Every 4 days, you get new stomach lining. Every 6 weeks, you get new liver. And then new skin every 4 days and bone every year. So it's pretty incredible how the body is governed, how the body is controlled. The body is set up for self-healing. The body is supposed to take care of itself. It's supposed to heal itself. That's how it was created, with that innate intelligence. Now, again, that process is perfect, but it's only perfect if it is free of interference. And again, that interference are those three stresses. That interference, aka subluxation, is created or caused by the three stresses. So we've got physical stress, birth trauma. We talk a lot about birth trauma here in the office. And when our kiddos come in and go through it, we go all the way back through pregnancy. We go through pregnancy, birth, and the first few years all the way up through their life, because it's that important. We've got accidents, falls, playing sports, out running on the soccer field. They take your legs out. That's a trauma. That's a physical stress on the body. And then we have chemical stresses. We've got medication, pollution, right? Our air is not what it used to be. Household cleaners got all kinds of toxins in them. And now we're even seeing that our food has all kinds of toxins. We just saw that massive ruling come out against Monsanto for the weed killer. And when come to find out, the main ingredient in the weed killer is also in several of our foods and cereals. So not a good thing, right? So those are toxins. Those are chemical stresses. And then we have emotional stress. So we've got school, we've got activity, right? If our kiddos are playing sports, there's usually a lot of pressure to win, to perform at its highest level, not only from coaches and other teammates, but also us as parents, right? And then we have the white coat syndrome. And if you don't know what that is, that's just going to the doctor's office. At my last practice, I would see patients come in that would have elevated blood pressure because they were coming into, quote and unquote, a doctor's office. That thought of coming to a doctor's office would cause emotional stress. Then, of course, as parents, right, we want the best for our kids, and sometimes that doesn't always come across. But because of that, we're able to create some of those emotional stresses for our kids. If our kids have gone through, families that have gone through divorces, if they've lost a loved one, those are all emotional stresses that a lot of times we don't think about, and that our kiddos struggle. So at the top of this picture, we've got chemical stresses, we've got physical stress, and we've got emotional stress, and then all of those create what we call subluxation. Then creates interference, irritation in the nervous system, inflammation, and so over time it can cause pain, but it's also causing dysfunction of that nervous system, which is the key point here. So birth trauma, it's really the real pandemic. We're going to watch a video here, so if you're a little squirmish, look away. But I'll give you a warning when we're going to go into that. It's nothing that's too gory. It's just a C-section. But before we jump to that, Dr. Godfrey Gutman, medical doctor, found that 80% 80% out of 1,000 infants he examined had spinal injury during that time, causing interference to neurological and immune function. So here's the deal. When a baby comes out, they have to develop, right? They grow, they develop, whether it's neurologically, whether it's emotionally, they've got milestones that they're supposed to hit. Well, if they come out after being delivered, after giving birth, they come out and they already start with that interference in their upper neck, then show's over, right? They're not going to be developed the way that they were meant to. They're not going to be able to grow and really heal and function the way that God intended them to. So 80% of 1,000 infants had spinal injury. He concluded that upper cervical, so the upper neck area, the first couple segments in the neck, should be examined after all births, not just some, not just the scary ones, but all births, and adjusted by a chiropractor if necessary. And this is not a chiropractor. This is not. This is an actual medical doctor that did the research and found 80%. To me, it's pretty incredible. So here's this video, and I jumped to it before I let you know, but I pushed pause. But this is a C-section, and they're going to come out. Now, a couple things here, and I just did a webinar the other night on pregnancy and about the options that you have as a mother of how you want to control your pregnancy. I've seen this video a million times. I thought that this baby was a little girl because of what this doctor said as he's pulling her out. Come to find out, it's not. So pay attention, because not only does this tell us the stress that baby's going under, mama's going under, but more importantly, this provider has no idea who and what he's even delivering. So here we go. What I want you to pay special attention to, not only see how much tension they have to pull that baby out. You hear him say, ears of a girl, ears of a girl. Now watch how he pulls her neck out. That was more forceful than any adjustment that you will ever see go on here in my office with any kid. Now, you can see that this is not a little girl. So back to my point of the provider not even knowing, it blows me away. But, and they talked about the head being too big, right? Well, the body is created for it to function normally as long as we don't interfere with that process. Now, I do get it. There are times when there needs to be intervention, and that's perfectly okay. But on a normal delivery, there's at least 60 pounds of pressure being pulled on that upper neck. You can see in that video, as much as he pulled side to side and then had to yank out, even after the amount of pressure that he had to pull with the dill on top of that baby's head is incredible. I can't even imagine how much pressure that neck, that upper cervical, and that nervous system underwent with this procedure. So in 2004, there was researchers that performed a study called the Body Burden Study. And they analyzed the umbilical cord blood samples from 10 neonates born over August, September. And they tested for over 400 special chemicals, and they found more than half. They found 287. Now, 180 of those are known carcinogens. 217 are toxic to the brain and nervous system, and 207 cause birth defects. So what does that mean? That means that there is copious amounts of chemicals, aka chemical stress, in this little baby's system while they are developing inside. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the wellness lifestyle. There's some amazing books out there, and Eat Well, right? We got Eat Well, Move Well, Think Well, Be Well Adjusted. Under Eat Well, there's a book called Crazy Makers by Carol Simontaki, and that's a great book. There's another one, It Starts with Food by Melissa and Dallas Hartwig. So it's very important that we are not increasing the amount of chemical toxins or chemical stresses into the nervous system, but more importantly, that we are giving good nutrition to our family, to our kiddos, and even to ourselves, right? The other one is move well. We need physical activity every single day. There's nothing more important. Physical activity helps with their development, not only neurological, but cognitive and motor skills as well. And that's why we saw such a huge decrease when they started cutting out PE as well as recess time, where kids could get up, they could move around, they could go out and run around the campus. Where now they sit all day long, and that's why we've seen more of these behaviors come out, right? And then think well. They need to feel safe, loved, and trusted. So as parents, those are some of the things that we can do for them instead of pushing them and creating more stress that we do a lot of times. And I'm guilty. I'm guilty of this. But in order to help them feel safe, loved, and trusted, so that it decreases a lot of that emotional stress on them, they're going to decrease the interference, which is going to help them function. They'll live a healthier life as well. And then, of course, be well adjusted. Chiropractic is in there. It's important. As we adjust, it helps increase and reconnect that communication of the nervous system. It helps remove that interference so that it can communicate and perform the way that it was always intended to perform. So the health status of children, we've got light blue, which is going to be under chiropractic care. We've got dark blue, which is going to be under medical care. So we've got tonsillitis, 26.3% versus 43% recovered from, or they got it. Sorry, they got it. We've got otitis media, which is ear infections, 31% under chiropractic care versus 80% under medical care. Antibiotic use. We see kiddos that end up going towards antibiotic use, 50% compared to 90% under medical doctors. Now, we don't prescribe antibiotics, but there's some of those that still go and get it. 50% is way less than 90. So now we're going to dive into the top 5 challenges that I see in kiddos here in the office. The first one is going to be colic. And if you've had a colicky baby, you understand exactly. Now, this is also something that I saw in my son. I had no idea back then what the heck to do. Chiropractic definitely was not in any part of helping him. But birth can be traumatic for both mom and baby. Parents are stressed. I mean, if you remember, if your kids are older and you don't have little ones around as far as babies and newborns and all that, parents are stressed, worried, tired, and feel hopeless. Especially if it's your first one, right? A lot of times we don't know what we're doing. And we're usually told that they'll grow out of it by our pediatricians. I know that that's what we were told when my son Jacob, who's 12 now, was going through it, who had the colic, who struggled with all of those. Now the cause, again, we go back and we can see forceps delivery, right? Low forceps delivery with excessive traction. And so as we're pulling and tugging, just like in that C-section video that we saw, we're putting all kinds of amounts of stress on that upper nerve, on that upper neck, as well as on that nervous system. Therefore, it increases likelihood of intervention and really hardwires the baby for stress. So when baby comes out in a stress mode, they're now hardwired into that. So as the docs are pulling and twisting of baby during delivery, again, it misaligns that upper neck, which then in turn affects sleep. It affects digestion, head and neck rotation. They're unable to latch because jaw function. We see, and I saw the digestive issues are in there. My little niece, who's now, gosh, I think she's going to be 3 in April. But a couple years ago, she was having massive amounts of digestive issues. And I adjusted her a few times, but it was crazy. You could see her stomach just get hard as heck. And after a few adjustments, saw a massive difference with her. And at that time, my sister would take her baby to, or would take her, get her adjusted, kind of like what everybody thinks, periodically, right? But not for overall function of the nervous system until a great friend and great chiropractor back home that I met through my trainings found out that he practiced the same way that I did, and so we got the whole family under care there, and the digestive issues went away for her. She was a preemie. She was C-section, and it was crazy altogether. Now C-sections, thoracic spine never gets activated, and that's key in a lot of this. And then we also don't get that probiotic dose as babies coming out. So, what can be done about it? This is the important part, right? As a chiropractor, what I do when you come in, we're going to scan, we're going to do a thermal scan to uncover the exact location extent of that subluxation or that interference in your kiddo's nervous system. And then we're going to perform gentle, specific adjustments to where your baby needs it. Every kid's different. Um, in a recent study of 316 babies with colic, 94 had complete resolution after 3 visits to a chiropractor. More than half of the remaining 6% had all improved after 2 weeks. Half of these babies had been treated pharmaceutically and it was unsuccessful. As a parent, you can breastfeed, you can do probiotics, you can do gripe water. There's Colic Calm now. But those are some of the things that you can do at home to help that process until the nervous system calms down and that interference is removed. Now, ear infections. This one is a popular one. This is one that we see a lot here in the office. And yeah, ouch, right? Little dude says ouch because it hurts. It's uncomfortable. They feel horrible. Now, 85% of kids suffer with ear infections. It's common, but it's not normal. So many times I hear, oh, well, it's normal for kids to have. It's not. I'm telling you, it is not normal. It is not part of the makeup for us to have ear infections. It may be common, but that does not mean that it's normal, and it definitely does not mean that it's okay. So the most common treatment that we see by pediatricians is antibiotics, even though most ear infections are viral. And as we know, antibiotics really are not going to do much for viral bacteria. Excuse me, it has to run its course. We also know that antibiotics will increase the recurrence of ear infections. Antibiotics in children under the age of 1 are 4 times as likely to develop asthma. And we talked about the amount of kiddos that suffer with asthma every year, the cost of asthma, the prescription for asthma, right? And are 3 times likely to develop allergies as they grow older. I went through it as a kid. I had ear infections, I had antibiotics, I suffered with asthma, and I definitely had allergies, right? Did I ever grow out of it? No, heck no, I didn't. Until I started getting adjusted on a regular basis in my adult life, most of all of that stuff had calmed down, and it's no longer an issue for me. We also commonly see reflux with this. Again, constipation, torticollis. We even see difficult nursing, right? Because those things, when the nervous system is under too much stress, it goes into survival mode. Constipation doesn't matter. We don't need to use the bathroom to survive, right? And so the GI begins to stop. We've seen this in both of these now. The cause is usually blamed on eustachian tubes being more horizontal than adult. I've even heard that because you feed your baby in the car seat, all those kinds of things. This is weak and inaccurate excuse because it all comes down to stress of pregnancy and delivery, to that in utero constraint will increase the likelihood of intervention. So again, that pulling, that twisting of baby during delivery creates misalignment in the upper neck. That misalignment, when there's that misalignment, it will create interference and it can no longer communicate to this muscle here called the tensor veli palatini and the levator palatini. These two will close it off, not allowing it to drain properly. It's connected and tied to the upper cervical, to the first and second vertebra in the neck. So therefore, when those are misaligned, it's not going to function properly. Now, it also affects sleep, right? Digestion again, there it is. Head neck rotation and jaw function or latching breastfeeding. Affects 99% of the kids that I see. The cause, 99%. It's crazy. I mean, Dr. Goofried said it was 80% in the ones that he's seen. What you can do about it? So my side of things, again, we're going to do a thermal scan. I expect upper cervicals to be the primary subluxation. Again, we're going to do a gentle, specific adjustment for your baby, for your kiddo, and expect lots and lots and lots of drainage. As that tension and that interference is taken off that upper cervical, now those muscles are going to work and it's going to open up and allow for drainage. A recent study was done on 332 kids between 4 and 5 years old who were suffering from recurrent ear infections that went under chiropractic care. 90% had no recurrence of ear infections for at least 6 months following their care. Nearly 95% had underwent pharmaceutical care unsuccessfully. And we've seen that time and time and time again, where they are put on antibiotics. It decreases their immune system in other areas. Most of the time will lead them to the spectrum because, again, it's that chemical stress that is too much for their nervous system. As a parent, you want to avoid dairy, wheat, you want to avoid grains, sugar, soy. Dairy it will create and cause a lot of mucus, and mucus is a major player. Supplements, you want to supplement with fish oil, probiotics, and vitamin D. Hey, Kurt, how you doing, buddy? Welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight. Constipation, and we've seen this, right? Every one of those first three has had constipation in here. Everyone Poops by Tara Gomi. Kind of a funny book, but just not as often as we'd like. 25% of all visits to a pediatrician are for constipation. Incredible. The cause, well, typically 3 types of cause. We've got neurogenic, so the vagus nerve, which is huge. It's one of my favorite nerves of all time. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. We've got diet and drugs providing no relief, and it will respond great to chiropractic care. Number 2, a nutritional cause. Primary issue is diet. And then number 3, a mix of both. By far the most common, frequently nutritional changes won't have an effect until the underlying neurology is repaired. So, the vagus nerve. When we're under constant amounts of stress, whether it's physical, emotional, or chemical, that puts us into that sympathetic or that survival mode, that will create and cause the vagus nerve to turn off. I always tell my patients it's just like the light switch. Walk over there and we're under too much stress, boom, the light switch turns off, it shuts the lights off just like that. Well, the vagus nerve, vagus meaning wandering, it does not come off the spinal cord, but instead comes off the base of the brainstem. It innervates or goes directly into the GI tract itself. So, is digestion part of surviving? It's not. It's one of those systems that will shut off when we are in survival mode. We need to be in healing mode for that digestion to function. And so that's why we see on a neurogenic cause, right? That's why it responds so well to chiropractic. Now we do have, like I said, the nutritional part of it, and that's just dietary related. Those are things that you can change at home. All those things on the side there definitely not good for us, uh, but a lot of times that's what our kiddos are eating. And then again, when we mix them both together, we like it says, there's not enough that nutritional changes will do without removing that interference through the chiropractic adjustment. So back to the steps of what can be done. And you can see here, these are thermal scans over to the right of the screen. Um, these scans are actually what we see when kiddos come in presenting with these different conditions. This is why it's so critical for you to come in and have your kiddo scanned, because we can know if we can help at that point. Not only that, but that's what sets us apart from all the others around. We actually can look at the function of the nervous system. Again, we're going to look for that subluxation with the scan. We may talk about some nutritional counseling. We don't do a whole lot of nutritional counseling here in the office, but there's some amazing nutritionists out there that we can refer to. Again, specific gentle adjustments. Now, the research, the recent study, again, kids under 2 years old with bowel movements no more than every 3 to 4 days underwent chiropractic care. All patients had been previously treated with drugs without success. Every patient had bowel movement every 1 to 2 days without straining after care. It's huge. We see kids come in here all the time, and that's not even what they come in for. A lot of kiddos that we care for that are on the spectrum, they have digestive issues. Why? Because of all of that stress, because of that neurogenic reason. As well as many of them don't want to eat things because of texture, right? So as a parent, some of the things, remove dairy, wheat, grains, sugar, kind of like we talked about before, and especially soy from the diet. We want to supplement with fish oil, probiotics, magnesium, vitamin D, and even some digestive enzymes. But key again is going to be to drink lots of water. Allergies and asthma, especially this time of year. With all the rain that we've had, a lot of allergies have kicked up because of the mold. In the springtime, allergies increase as well. Medical understanding classifies allergies as an autoimmune issue or an immune imbalance by T1 and T2. Okay, so the immune system has two parts. There are two halves. It's got Th1 and Th2. And those must remain in balance for optimal health expression. With allergies, and especially most childhood conditions, the Th1 side is suppressed and the Th2 side is overstimulated. The cause, look again, difficult pregnancy or delivery. We've got a mom that's stressed out, preterm, maybe IVF, right? They show with a breech presentation, in utero constraint. They may use forceps or vacuum, C-section, toxic exposure throughout the pregnancy, or even significant immune challenges as mom herself. And then in childhood, we have early exposure to formula, right? So many of the kiddos aren't latching. They're not able to breastfeed. Mom, because of all the stress that she's under, she's not able to even produce enough milk. So what do? Boom, let's get them on formula. Boom, let's get them on cow's milk. Let's get them on solids or rice cereal way before they ever should be. Dairy, grains, toxic foods, which then create lots of ear infections, sinus infections. Now what do? We go to the antibiotics, which is another chemical stress, right? We do Tylenol for every fever. Again, another chemical stress. Now we've got lots of inhalers, steroid use, really to suppress the immune system. And then fully vaccinated, right? These are all different causes because they're all stresses on the nervous system on a nervous system that was already weak to begin with, on a nervous system that was struggling to catch up. Now, we also will see reflux, constipation, there it is again, difficulty nursing, again, right? All of these ongoing subluxations, excessive vaccination, and medication use and toxins in diets environment. The child's immune system never had a chance to develop. They were already starting way low, and now we throw all of this other stuff, and it creates a weakened and suppressed immune system that they can never come out or can never gain traction from. Back to our famous scan page. Again, we're going to scan them just like we do everything here in this office. We're going to check the atlas for that fight or flight survival response. Then we're going to look at the 3 floors of the GI system. Again, the GI is also innervated by not only the vagus nerve that responds to an atlas adjustment, but more importantly, throughout the thoracic or mid-back area. We're going to check the upper thoracic area. And most importantly, we're going to do gentle, specific adjustments. Research shows that chiropractic adjustments help balance the Th1, Th2 system by stimulating white blood cell production. As a parent, you can cut out that dairy, wheat, grains, rice cereal, sugar, soy, and just go paleo. Scans will tell us how big an issue diet is. Now, most importantly, supplement with fish oil, probiotics, antioxidants, digestive enzymes, and vitamin D. So you can kind of see a pattern here. When you come into the office, we're going to scan them because that scan is going to tell us exactly what is going on. And that's the key. Scans will tell us how big an issue diet is, because if we come in, we scan them, and we don't see a ton of interference, which is what those red, green, and blue colors mean, then we know it's going to be more diet related versus spinal related. And so we're not just guessing. We're not trying to understand what is going on. So this one, ADHD, sensory processing disorder, and autism. This is what ADHD feels like. You can kind of see everything's jumbled up, right? And I know a lot of parents come in and say, I'm never really diagnosed, but I know I have ADHD. And so some of us can understand what our kiddos are going through. While the medical community has hundreds of pages of various diagnoses and definitions, the vast majority of these kids share the exact same foundational dis-ease, hyphenated, meaning that the body is not at ease, just varying expressions. The brain is not properly perceiving, coordinating, and then processing the information and stimuli from the environment. So it's an overload of all of this stimuli, aka stress, onto the nervous system. Therefore, the way it reacts to these things is not appropriate. So we either get hyperactivity, right? Can't sit still, can't control themselves, constantly going all over. We get impulsiveness. We get anxiety, distraction, can't concentrate, issues at school, right? Almost getting kicked out, attention issues, and so much more. Now, it always, it always affects the whole family. Divorce rate doubles when there is an autistic child. It's incredible. Why? Because there's so much stress that's being put on to the family. The cause? It's the perfect storm. Family history of autoimmune issues, stressful pregnancy, preterm, IVF, toxic exposure, or significant immune challenges during pregnancy. So again, we've got emotional, physical, and chemical stresses. Breech presentation, that birth trauma, right, from forceps, vacuum, C-section, fully vaccinated on a nervous system that is struggling to try to keep up. Have lots of dairy, sugar, grains, processed foods. You cannot be in growth and protection at the same time. It's just impossible. I have a couple pictures here in the office that illustrates that. And we had one of the kiddos that was walking out on the other day, and he said, "Hey, Mom," he said, "what's going on here?" He said, that rock there should, he said, it's even. And he said it shouldn't be because there's more rocks on one side than the other. Well, that's to illustrate that we can't be in both at the same time. We're either in that fight or flight, stressed out mode, survival mode, or we're in that parasympathetic healing mode, aka protection mode. Nerves that fire together, and we talked about that a little earlier tonight. Nerves that fire together, wire together. And so when a baby comes out in a stressed, after being stressed, their wires are already going to be wired for stress. That's all they're going to know. Again, we'll see colic, reflux, constipation, difficulty nursing. These are all red flags as we go through the history of kiddos that we see that deal with ADHD, autism, sensory processing. These are all red flags in their history that we see. Frequent ear and sinus infections, lots of antibiotics, Tylenol for every fever. Now, in the end, the child's brain becomes disconnected, right? Meaning it cannot properly perceive and coordinate the sensory signals from the environment. So we're constantly getting bombarded by these signals. Without proper perception and coordination, the responses the brain generates are improper and disconnected. So we talk a lot about radio here in the office and how so many times that radio station will have too much static. If you're as old as I am, you'll remember going back and forth between stations. There was a ton of static in between. Well, that's what these kiddos are struggling with. They don't have that clear connection for them to be able to understand or perceive and then coordinate the responses for all the improper stresses coming into the nervous system. Hey, Tony, good to see you, brother. Thanks for joining us tonight. So again, scans, right? That's what we do here in the office because it's so important to us. These scans allow us to know exactly not only what's going on, share that with you as mom and dad, but more importantly for us to be able to take that and give a care plan to get these kiddos the care that they need. More importantly, we can see the exact stress that they're struggling with. So again, thermal scan. We've got, we're going to check that atlas. We're going to see if they're in fight or flight response. Again, that vagus nerve that controls the GI system. Then we've also got another one, another scan that we do here that is we're looking for total energy. And this is that radio station I was talking about. We got total energy, low pattern, or both, right? That signal that's coming in, is it being scrambled because those stress wires are crisscrossing and they don't know what's coming in, or is it not? So boys aged 9 to 13 who were medically diagnosed with ADHD and then underwent chiropractic care all reported improvement in hyperactivity, impulsiveness, and inattentiveness, as well as behavior, social, or emotional difficulties. I don't know what the numbers are here in our office, but I can tell you that all of the kids that have come in with ADHD-related symptoms, ADHD diagnoses, have all seen improvements in all of those areas that we just talked about. Again, diet is huge, right? Avoid, get rid of the garbage, get rid of those toxins. Supplement with the good stuff, the fish oil, the vitamin D, the enzymes. And there are places for occupational therapy, and we love working with the different therapies, counseling, martial arts, swimming. But I can tell you that the spine is responsible for 70 to 80% of positive, aka proprioceptive input into the nervous system. Occupational therapy, ABA therapy, all of those are amazing because they teach your kiddo life lessons, are responsible for about 20% of that positive proprioceptive input into the nervous system. That's why chiropractic is able to help remove that interference and, more importantly, put a positive input into the brain and the nervous system to help reconnect your kiddo. So we're going to finish up. We got a couple videos here. I know it's been long. We're going to go real quick. But these are stories that usually will make me tear up. Now, Evan's story, Autism Unlocked. One of my great mentors. This was his patient, and he shared this with us, and it's just phenomenal. And we've had stories like this. I'm just not great at documenting things, but I can tell you, this little boy, he was an emergency C-section, seizures. He'd spent 2 weeks in the NICU, and the whole thing to this is Evan's nervous system was so locked that he could not function, he could not interpret, he could not perceive anything. So watch here as we go into this.
Bye, Aunt Kristen. See you later.
You're going to see him get frustrated.
No?
Everything that comes into him is negative.
Did you
He's
have fun?
nonverbal.
Yeah?
And so that video goes on. Now this is him right here. Look at all of those wires on his head. Now not only that, can you imagine all the sounds going off, all the beeps, all the stress that he was under? Not only in delivery, birth, but also in the NICU for 2 weeks. His nervous system was so hardwired for stress, it was ridiculous. And these are his first scans. So at the time, he was mostly nonverbal. We saw that in the video, maybe 3 to 5 words, unable to follow any directions. There was never any eye contact, very emotional as we could see. He would not sleep. He had no interaction with his parents or with his siblings. And he was diagnosed with autism in July. He started chiropractic care that day as well. And you can see the scans. Again, we see all of those colors, right? So this is a thermal scan, and we don't want to see color. We want to see white. We don't want to see going back and forth, all the craziness. Now this is Evan with his dad after a few short visits. Well, not short. I shouldn't say few short visits, but after a few visits at the chiropractor. And watch what he does. It's a huge difference.
What's that one? Goody. What is it? Goody. A dog.
So still kind of hard to understand him, right?
Yeah.
But he's looking at mom. He's able to communicate in a way, right? He's able to, what he thinks, get his point across. Now, his results. After 2 weeks, that video, Evan fell asleep in parking lot and slept for 15 hours straight. He began talking more within days, imitating speech for the first time, playing with his brother and sister and imitating their play, doing funny things purposely to engage the parents. And guess what? He began pooping a ton because he was detoxing. His nervous system was letting go of all that garbage that he had built up in there, all that stress, all those chemical stresses that he had in there. After 2 months of chiropractic care, he began speaking in full sentences, exploding with development in speech, sleeping better, behaved better, became potty trained, and guess what? Never sick. This isn't about kids never getting sick, but I can tell you, kids that come into my office do not stay sick. And this right here is what it's all about. These stories right here is what it's all about for me. These stories are why I take this time to share with you as parents, because I know that there are so many of us out there that don't have answers, that don't know that there are other options, that are struggling. Their family's struggling, and they know that these kiddos are struggling. So watch this video.
Hey, smiley boy. What do you have?
Hi, my name is Evan.
Yeah, your name's Evan, and how old are you going to be, Evan?
4.
When are you going to be 4?
On July 17th.
Oh, yay.
So understand, eye contact,
What do you have on your
carry on a
face?
conversation, full sentences.
You have dimples.
Nipples. I know how you use.
I mean, can it get any cuter than that? This kid understands that he has dimples. Mom asks him a question, "What do you have on your face?" And he says, "I have dimples." He doesn't stop there. He goes on to say, "And I know how to use them," and laughs. To me, that's what it's about. Allowing these kiddos to function and to live the life that not only you always wanted for them, but that they were intended to have. So, right now, you know what's gone on. You've seen the cause. You've heard me talk about different reasons tonight. You've even used some of the things that we've talked about, as well as you've ignored some of the other things. Maybe some of the red signs, the red flags. But we're not here to judge you for that. We're not here to ridicule you for that. We're not here for any of that other than to share with you that there are other possibilities. There are options, and there are most definitely answers to the reason that your kiddos, whether they're on the spectrum, they get sick all the time. There is a reason. So, right now, you have an opportunity. We want to support you reaching your goals as a healthy family, and therefore are offering a discounted first visit. Normally, our fees are $150 for the scans and the exam and the end of the whole thing, going over everything, letting you know what's going on, the doctor's report. But because you've taken time to watch this, it's $50 per individual, or if you want to do family, we would do 150 for the whole family. That includes the consultation, your eyes exam, the physical exam, and the report of findings. This must be scheduled within 2 weeks. So this is all about offering you the opportunity to not miss or to not do what you need to help your child function and live the greatest life possible. We're going to end with this video, but before we get into it, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on here with us tonight. I know that it has been long. I know that everybody is busy, but please, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our next one is going to be in 2 weeks on the, let's see here. I believe that will be the 27th of September, and it's titled ADHD Ferrari Engines with Bicycle Brakes. So watch this, reach out to us, message us, call the office. We're here to help. We're here to answer questions, but more importantly, we're here to help your family live the life that you always wanted to live.
Part of a lost generation, and I refuse to believe that I can change the world. I realize this may be a shock, but happiness comes from within is a lie, and money will make me happy. So in 30 years, I will tell my children they are not the most important thing in my life. My employer will know that I have my priorities straight because work is more important than family. I tell you this, once upon a time, families stayed together. But this will not be true in my era. This is a quick fix society. Experts tell me 30 years from now, I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. I do not concede that I will live in a country of my own making. In the future, environmental destruction will be the norm. No longer can it be said that my peers and I care about this earth. It will be evident that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It is foolish to presume that there is hope. And all of this will come true unless we choose to reverse it. There is hope. It is foolish to presume that my generation is apathetic and lethargic. It will be evident that my peers and I care about this earth. No longer can it be said that environmental destruction will be the norm. In the future, I will live in a country of my own making. I do not concede that 30 years from now, I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. Experts tell me this is a quick fix society, but this will not be true in my era. Families stayed together once upon a time. I tell you this, family is more important than work. I have my priorities straight because my employer will know that they are not the most important thing in my life. So in 30 years, I will tell my children, money will make me happy is a lie, and true happiness comes from within. I realize this may be a shock, but I can change the world, and I refuse to believe that I am part of a lost generation.
So as that ends up, I just want to leave you with one last thing. And I apologize, my voice is going after talking, excuse me, for the last hour. But we are really, many times we may think that we are giving a certain life or whatnot, but we have the opportunity to flip it. Just like that little video flipped it and it changed the whole meaning, you have this opportunity to flip the hand that you've been dealt. There are answers, there are options, and we can know exactly if we can help by a simple scan. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to be doing more of these. Like I said, we've got one coming up in 2 weeks on more in depth on ADHD. And again, if you have questions or there's a topic that you want us to talk on, let us know and we'll see what we can do. But have a great night.